At 2:19 a.m., the night vision cameras turned the world green and quiet, and then a shape moved where nothing should move. It crossed the far end of Pod C in 3 smooth steps, head low, shoulders tight, as if it did not want to be seen. The door at the end of that hallway was locked. The count was good. No one should be there. But the motion box on the monitor put a bright square around the empty air and beeped. Officer Avery King felt the breath catch in her throat. Officer David Cole leaned closer to the screen and whispered, "Freeze it." Avery froze the frame. The shape was gone. Only the echo of footsteps came through the ceiling speaker, hard rubber on concrete, steady, unhurried, tap, tap, tap. The camera showed nothing. The microphone said someone was walking. "Control to Pod C," Avery said into the radio. "Confirm position of all staff." Static. Then another echo moved across the sound like wind under a door. Tap, tap, tap. Closer now. David checked the door board. All green, all locked. The green meant safe. The footsteps said otherwise. He turned the volume up. The steps stopped. Then a slow, low breath came into the speaker, as if a mouth had leaned close to the mic on the wall and exhaled. "Show me something," David said to the empty screen. The camera flickered once like an eye. For a blink, a pale face filled the frame, flat, washed by infrared, eyes wide, no color, just light. Avery flinched. The face was inches from the lens, so close it could not be anyone on the tier floor. A second later, the view snapped back to the long green hallway. Nothing there. No one there. Only that breath still in the speaker, as if the night itself was standing very near and listening. Avery pressed the talk button, kept her voice even. Even voices travel well at night. "Pod C," she said, "stand by for safety checks." The ceiling camera at the opposite end of the hall pivoted 1 inch, then another, as if a hand had touched it and let go. The IR illuminators popped a little in the speakers. Tiny clicks that live on these lines, and then the footsteps started again, this time moving toward the control room door. The door was 6 inches of steel and glass, set in a wall that had never bent for anyone. The monitor showed an empty corridor. The speaker said somebody was now only a few yards away. The handle on the control room door moved. Avery and David jumped at the same time, shoulder to shoulder, hearts loud. The handle did not turn far. It only gave a patient, polite rattle, like a knock you give a friend at midnight when you do not want to wake the whole house. The monitor still showed no one in the hallway. The rattle came again. Avery felt something very simple rise in her mind: fear. Not panic. Not a scream. Just the clean, cold slice of fear that a lot of officers say they felt at least once in this unit, the fear you hear about in interviews and reports. The kind that has no face but still knows your name. David spoke without looking away from the glass. "Who's there?" Silence. Then the lowest sound, like a voice underwater, came through the speaker. "Look up." They both did. The camera above the control door made a soft, friendly tick as its small motor moved. For 1 green second, it showed only the ceiling and the head of the camera itself, like a mirror staring back. Then the image snapped back to the empty hall. The handle stopped moving. The hallway went silent. The air felt colder, the way air feels when a freezer door has just been opened and then closed again. That was the highest point. That was the breath that held. The night tension did what it always does inside Pelican Bay. It sat down on the room, heavy and patient, and waited for the next small sound to find it. Hours earlier, the start of the shift had looked simple. The SHU is built to control, not to surprise. Thick doors, narrow windows, cameras on every angle, lights that never go to true night. Only dim, then brighten. People outside think Supermax is all shouting and fights. Public myths say it is noise and chaos. But the documents and the day-to-day interviews do not agree. They say the truth is slower. The truth is a long line of small sounds. A drip. A fan buzz. A sock sliding on a bunk. A pencil tapping 3 times on steel. The officers learn the building like a song and listen for the note that does not belong. At 10 p.m., Avery and David did health and welfare checks. They moved steady, said names, waited for eyes, counted hands. In cell 7, Marcus Lane asked for a roll of toilet paper. In cell 13, a man named Noel Rogers lay on his bunk, both hands above the sheet, eyes open but calm. In cell 21, Daniel Price had stacked 2 paper cups by the food port, a quiet signal that he wanted to talk later about nothing in particular. These things go in the log. They are dull. They also save lives. The night had lows, the kind that feel almost safe. A TV glowed on mute under a towel. A book turned pages in slow, careful flips. The vents in Pod C breathed in long, soft lines. The lights hummed at their thin, constant pitch. This was the low the story needs, and it was true. The low shows what is normal so the high can be seen. At 1:35 a.m., the first odd echo slid across the floor. It was tiny, like a footfall half a tier away. Avery paused, listened, and heard nothing else. She noted it. At 1:52 a.m., the faint tapping began, 3 taps from the far end, then nothing. She looked at the cameras. Empty hall. At 2:03 a.m., the IR glare on camera C12 flared white, then settled. She pushed the focus. It cleared, then wavered again. She noted that too. By 2:10 a.m., David had poured bad coffee and the world had gone gray-green in the monitors. Night vision makes the building look like the bottom of a pool. Everything moves slow. Skin looks like paper. Eyes shine. Officers who have done this work for years say the cameras are honest and cruel. They show what is there and also make it look like something else. That is the psychological war the brief talked about. The cameras watch you while you watch them. The echoes take your own footsteps and hand them back 10 seconds later from the wrong direction. The mind writes stories in the quiet. The trick is to let the stories come and still keep the facts. Run the round, Avery said. Slow, steady. David nodded and keyed his mic as the hallway microphones picked up that first set of footsteps. Tap, tap, tap. No picture, only sound. The highest peak was seconds away. He called the count. Cell 1. A hand, a nod. Cell 2. 2 fingers up, a face at the window. Cell 3. A man slept with his back to the door, breath slow. Cell 4. Empty bunk, shower time, marked and verified. Cell 5. Good. He spoke low and easy. He did not mention the echo slinking along the floor behind his shoulder. He did not tell the hallway he heard it breathing. He only counted and moved like the training says. Then the cold voice came through the speaker and told them to look up, and the handle moved and the face flashed in the lens. The high broke into the next low because work continues even when fear knocks. Avery pushed the alert to the rover team. The sergeant answered from the Sally port with a steady copy, the sound of Velcro and keys and boots rushing in the background. David lowered the volume so he could hear real feet if they came. The hallway speaker went quiet except for the fan and the buzz of light. Avery's mind did that useful, simple thing it does at 2:20 a.m. It made a list. What she knew, all door lights were green. The count was still good. No alarms showed for panel C12. The motion detector was tripping with no visual. The footsteps came from the speaker but had no person to wear them. The handle had moved but the camera showed no hand. The face in the lens did not match any roster photo. What she didn't know, if the mic had crossed with another line, if the IR was seeing a reflection, if someone was standing on a ladder out of frame, if a vent baffle had slipped and mimicked a step. You only move on facts here. So she breathed once and did the next right thing. Pod C, she said into the mic, calm, this is a safety check for everyone. Stay on bunks. Hands visible. On the monitors, 3 faces looked up at once like fish turning to a ripple. In cell 21, Daniel Price lifted his chin to the speaker and said, "You hear it too?" His lips moved slow so the sound could pass through the thin gap at the frame. The hall walks by itself some nights. Daniel did not sound proud or scared. He sounded honest. "Stay on your bunk, Price," David said. The rover team reached the Sally port, shields, camera pole, calm breath, the quiet way you move when the building is listening. The inside door stayed red as it should. The sergeant checked the lock with his glove, nodded to the lens and waited for the board to give him green. It did not. The board did not change at all. The board said the world was fine. Avery told herself again, facts. On the IR, the far end of the hall pulsed with a soft cloud, like heat over asphalt. On the mic, the echo came and went, close, far close. On the door, the handle sat still. She did the next right thing. Open inner port 1, she said. The relay clicked. The heavy door breathed and slid open 2 inches. Every monitor in the room went black for 1 heartbeat. In that beat, a new sound filled the speaker, 1 quiet word recorded or real, close enough that it felt like a breath on the ear, smile. The screens came back. The Sallyport camera showed the team in place, shields up. The hallway camera showed an empty corridor, green and still. The door handle did not move. The footsteps were gone. David let out a breath he didn't know he had saved. Avery did not breathe. Because on the middle monitor, the one above the light switches, the night vision cut to a tight, perfect frame of the control room itself. Avery's shoulder, David's hand, the coffee cup, the red light on the talk button. Then, click, it snapped back to the hall like nothing had happened. David saw it too. He turned to the glass and then back to the screen, eyes wide now, the comm cracked just a little. "Who pointed a camera at us?" he said. No one answered. The building hummed its thin, tired hum. The mic picked up the smallest scrape like rubber on paint. The sergeant's team waited, ready and steady, for the open command that did not come. And in the green glow, new words walked themselves across the bottom of camera C12 where no words should appear at all. "We see you." The letters held for 3 seconds. Then the IR illuminators on the hallway camera winked out as if a finger pinched them, and the corridor went black on the screens, black and silent, while the control room door handle began very slowly to turn. The handle turned a 1/4 inch, then stopped as if the thing on the other side wanted them to know it could move the door but did not need to, not yet. The night vision monitors were black. The words "we see you" were gone. The only light left was the thin glow from the radio and the soft green from the board. Avery kept her voice level. "Pod C, hold your position," she said, not taking her eyes off the handle. David stepped to the side so he could see the door and the board at the same time. The sergeant in the sally port waited for the inner door to open, visor low, shield up, breathing slow enough to count. Avery tapped the hardwired intercom, the one that does not ride the camera system. "Control to Pod C," she said. "Verify all cell doors still read secure." "Secure," David answered, eyes flicking down the list. "All green." "Okay," Avery said. "Then we are not opening anything." For a long 10 seconds nothing moved. The building's thin hum came back, like a faraway bee. The handle settled to center. In cell 21, Daniel Price's mouth shaped the words "Don't talk loud." In cell 13, Noel Rogers sat up slow, like a swimmer coming up from deep water. A distant vent sighed and held that breath. The monitors flickered once, just a pulse, not a picture. The control booth camera did not flash again, thank God. Night vision came back in green steps. A hallway corner, a door frame, the long floor empty. On camera C12, the motion square jumped, then calmed as if it had blinked. "Sergeant," Avery said into the radio, "inner port will not open until we finish a fresh count and recheck." "Hold." "Copy," the sergeant answered. No complaint. No panic. Just the steady voice that tells a room what ground feels like. They started the work that breaks fear into parts. David pulled up the last 10 minutes of system logs. No door opens, no camera pans, no relay faults. Avery pulled the mic gain down 2 ticks so the speakers would catch only big sounds, not tiny ones. She reset the motion sensitivity 1 notch lower so the IR fizz would not set off the square. She breathed once and felt her own hands stop shaking. "Run it again," she said. "We keep the pace." David keyed up. "Cell 1. A nod. Cell 2. 2 fingers. Cell 3. Slow breath, steady. Cell 4. Back from shower, hands up, good. Cell 5. Good. Cell 6. Good. The hallway stayed empty. The door handle stayed still. The microphones picked up human sound again. The soft scrape of a cup, the tiny clink of a ring on steel, the low cough in cell 9 that came every night around this time. The fear didn't leave, but it put on a jacket and sat in the corner like a guest who knew the house rules. That was the low. The story needed it and the building gave it. The night settled. The camera picture got cleaner. The motion square stopped jumping. For a few minutes, the green world looked like a normal bad night at a Supermax. Avery knew better than to trust a quiet hall that had just tried to talk. "Pull thermal overlay," she told David. He layered the gray heat image over the green. Concrete showed cold. Door frames showed colder. Human faces glowed like thin coins. Halfway down the run, a patch the size of a dinner plate looked warmer than the rest of the wall. Not hot. Just not as cold. "You see that?" Avery asked. "Uh-huh," David said. He zoomed. The patch was low, near the floor, exactly where a person might stand and lean their shoulder to listen. No one stood there now. "Mark it," she said. He tagged it on the screen. The tag stayed like a pin in a map. They finished the count. "Cell 21, David said at last. Daniel Price sat on his bunk and didn't blink. "You okay?" David asked. Daniel nodded once and lifted a finger toward the speaker above his door, as if to say, "They listen there, not here." Avery pressed the main transmit. "Pod C count complete," she said. "All hands stay on bunks. Staff only in sight line. We're going to run a check on the cameras and vents." The sergeant spoke from the sally port. "Control, my team can make the tier on your go." "Copy," Avery said. She didn't give the go. She let the low carry a little longer. She needed to learn the room. "Pull the last frame of the face," David said almost to himself. He stepped through the 1-second blackout, frame by frame. Black, black, black. Then a sliver of some shape so close to the lens it was only curve and static. Then haul again. "Could be a reflection," Avery said. "Could." She didn't believe it. Reports and interviews say the mind will write a story to make a shape sane. That can help. That can also get you hurt. They checked vents. They checked logs. They checked the patch where the wall was warm. The patch cooled by 1 degree and then held. The microphones recorded normal noises. The door handle did not move. "Sergeant," Avery said at last. "Inner port to 1. Slow step. Shields high. Camera pole up." "On your word," the sergeant said. "Ready," Avery said. "Open." The relay clicked. The big door side opened like a heavy book. The team flowed through and formed their wedge. The pole camera rose, its own little IR LEDs making white freckles on the screen. The green world showed 5 shields, 1 pole, 1 comm sergeant. The team moved down the hall like a single person breathing. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of even feet on even floor. The microphones liked those footsteps. The motion squares did not. They stayed dead as if the system had decided that known steps did not count as motion. "Hold it midline," Avery said. The team stopped under the camera that had flicked earlier. Nothing happened. The control door handle stayed still. The wall patch cooled another degree. "What do you want to see?" David asked. "Anything I can name," Avery said. "Something obliged." The pole camera went slightly snowy for a half second and then cleared. In that half second, the words "we see you" flashed again, but this time not on the screen, on the wall itself, a faint chalky scrawl at ankle height where the warm patch had been, there and gone like breath on glass. "Did you?" David started. "I saw it," Avery said. No one on the tier looked down. No one but them seemed to see it. The picture stayed clean. The sergeant held his line. "Advance to the end," Avery said. "Slow." They moved. The microphones picked something tiny, like a zipper being tugged very gently. The night vision camera at the far end pivoted a single click, aiming a hair to the left, then settled. David marked the movement. The log did not. "Left lens adjusted," he said. "Log shows no pan." "Copy," Avery said. She did not add, "That's not how logs work." She did not say, "Sometimes the building tells the truth in sound and lies in text." She just watched. At the last door, the sergeant turned the pole camera on the control room glass from the outside. For 1 green second, the lens saw Avery and David like ghosts. The camera adjusted for glare. The picture corrected. The glass looked like comm metal again. No words. No face. No handle move. "Return," Avery said. They walked back in the same even steps. The microphones gave them back their own footfalls with the right delay. That felt like normal. The team stepped into the sally port and the inner door closed with a low, honest thud. The red light came on over the lock. The relay ticked once. "Good. Control to Pod C," Avery said, "Tier clear." She let herself breathe. Her hands did not shake now. The low held. David leaned back and rubbed his eyes. "Night vision makes me feel like I'm underwater," he said and tried to smile. It almost worked. "You ever get used to that?" "Not really," Avery said. "You just get good at calling what you see." They logged everything. Time. Words. Warm patch. Handle move. Pole cam snow. Nothing big enough to write a movie about. Everything big enough to wake you at noon when your body tries to sleep. This is the hidden war the brief talked about. Not fists but frames. Not noise but echoes. Not monsters but monitors. The low had lasted 5 minutes when the next high arrived. On camera C12, the motion square blinked once and then stayed on, bright red, a little too confident. The thermal layer showed cold. The visible layer showed empty floor. The audio layer showed nothing but a low hiss. "False trip," David said. The square slid 6 inches to the left. "Not false," Avery said. The square moved again like it was tracking something small and close to the ground. It rode the base of the wall, then the seam at the floor, then it stopped at the bottom of the control room door. The square held there and pulsed as if whatever it had locked on had pressed its invisible face to the crack. "Check the mic," Avery said. David slid the gain up 1 tick and leaned close. At first only hiss. Then, under the hiss, a soft pattern, 3 tiny taps, a pause, 3 tiny taps. Tap tap tap, pause, tap tap tap. Not a fist. Not a key. More like the end of a pen. Avery's throat went dry. "Sergeant, hold in place," she said, voice flat. "Do not approach the door." "Copy," the sergeant said. She could hear the what now he did not say. The taps stopped. A new sound rose. It was quiet. It was human. It was right next to the microphone grill on the hall wall. Someone, or something, exhaled very slowly as if testing how close it could get without fogging the lens. The motion square brightened. The thermal layer did not. Say something, David whispered. A voice did. Come. Close. Lower than a whisper, like breath taught to speak. Fear looks at glass, it said. Echoes look through it. Avery did not move. She spoke to her own screen and to the room and to the thing that might be only a bad night making shapes. We're done here, she said very even. Pod C is secure. Staff are secure. Systems are recorded. Silence. Then the picture on camera C12 rolled one frame, just one, and showed a reflection that did not match the room. A second Avery, a second David, both turned away from the monitors, both looking up at the ceiling, both holding still like statues. The real Avery and the real David were not doing that. The real sergeant was not in that frame at all. The not-quite image shivered, then snapped back to the normal green hall. The control room door handle turned all the way down. Metal clicked. The latch gave. Avery threw her shoulder to the door as the sergeant's shield slammed the other side from the hall. The door hit both bodies at once and stuck in the frame, metal screaming, glass shivering. On the nearest speaker, breath touched the mic again, soft and smiling. We see you, the voice said. And every night vision camera in Pod C pointed itself at the control room in the same second. Motors ticking, lenses whining, until a wall of green, unblinking eyes stared straight through the glass.